While working on their own research, these scientists eventually solved one of the biggest mysteries of all time.
That, for me, was the eureka moment when we had brought all this chemistry together, combined it with the dating, and it all gave this coherent story of one massive eruption 75,000 years ago from Toba.
But how exactly does one supervolcano cover large parts of the southern hemisphere with 2,800 cubic kilometers of magma and leave behind one of the biggest holes in the Earth's crust ever created? Based on the seemingly random discoveries of a group of scientists over 15 years, we can now take you back 75,000 years to witness one of the greatest volcanic eruptions of all time.
Magma would have been accumulating beneath this area, doming up the entire terrain.
A massive lake of magma continued to grow beneath what today is the jungle of Sumatra, putting the whole landscape under incredible stress.
It certainly would have involved new cracks opening up in the ground.
The roof of the magma chamber, though, began to collapse and sink into the magma chamber. This forced the silica-rich magma out along the perimeter of this collapsing roof block.
Once the eruption started, all hell would have broken loose.
This magma erupted explosively towards the surface, generating enormous ash clouds and generated pyroclastic flows,
which are very destructive and hot avalanches of gas, ash, and rock. And of course, they destroy everything in their path.
For the next few days, the mayhem continued.
Very high eruption columns. These eruption columns would have reached tens of miles into the atmosphere.
The eruption plume sent billions of tons of ash around the globe. Ash that would end up in John Westgate's lab 75,000 years later.
This would have gone on for 1 or 2 weeks. At the end of this time, what would have been left was a 2-kilometer deep hole filled with steaming pyroclastic flow deposits. Since then, the depression has filled with 500 meters of water, resulting in the landscape that we see today.
Now that they understand the scale of the Toba eruption, scientists are hard at it, trying to find out what a super eruption would do to life on Earth. Key to Toba's power to devastate life are the ash and sulfur dioxide that make up the plume of the erupting volcano. When Toba erupted 75,000 years ago, the Earth was abundant with animal life, but only sparsely populated by early humans. The total world population was only about 60 million, less than 1/100th of the people on the planet today. Any human or animal within a wide radius of the eruption would have suffered a painful death.
Well, if you're close enough to the volcanic eruption, and in a super eruption that can mean thousands of miles away, if you breathe in the ash in an unprotected way, you're breathing in tiny little glass needles. And they get into your lungs. They cause the blood vessels in your lungs to pop. There's moisture in your lungs. The ash combines with the moisture to make a kind of a cement. You basically choke to death.
Sulfur dioxide, a key ingredient in the plume of the erupting supervolcano, has a devastating effect on life by altering the climate of the entire planet.
Sulfur can reach very high altitudes. In the atmosphere, it combines with water to make sulfuric acid, which is a liquid, which forms tiny little droplets. And it's that mist of drops of sulfuric acid that present the veil that cuts out the sunlight, that scatters the sunlight back to space, that keeps the sunlight from getting to the surface of the planet to warm the surface of the planet.
It is this process that gives sulfur dioxide the potential to send the Earth's climate into a nosedive, causing famine and death right across the globe.
Well, based on our present information, Toba had a major role in causing a 1,000-year climate cooling and created a mini ice age that lasted at least 1,000 years, perhaps longer, which could have affected life on the planet, certainly did affect life all over the planet, and could have had a severe effect on human beings at the time.
But scientists disagree about whether Toba really could have caused an ice age lasting 1,000 years. Modern observations have shown that the effects of volcanic sulfur dioxide and ash are washed out of the atmosphere in just a few years. This question is considered urgent enough to have attracted the attention of NASA. They've created a computer simulation to find out how a super-eruption could create a millennium of freezing.
In our simulations, the planet definitely cools in response to this super-eruption. The cooling is larger than you'd expect just from having the eruption itself.
Drew's model has identified the seemingly harmless mystery ingredient that can turn an eruption into an ice age.
We think Toba could have pushed the planet towards an ice age because the model was able to increase the area covered by snow. So that makes the planet brighter, more reflection, and then even after the volcanic material has fallen out from the atmosphere, the brighter surface can allow the cooling to continue.
Any sunlight that did manage to penetrate the dense cloud of sulfuric acid was immediately reflected back by the snow. It was this that could have sent the planet's temperatures tumbling further. Using the climate data collected by NASA, we can now go back once more 75,000 years and show how the super-eruption of Toba may have devastated life in an ice